In the blue-gray hush before dawn, when most of Washington still slept, and the only sounds at Arlington National Cemetery were the soft stirrings of wind through white marble stones, Specialist Aaron Hale began his shift at the tomb of the unknown soldier. He had walked this path hundreds of times. 21 steps, pause, turn, 21 steps back, precision, discipline, memory. Every movement carved into him through months of training, but this morning carried a chill he had never felt before, a cold that seemed to slip through the perfectly pressed layers of his uniform and rest against his bones. He didn't know why he felt watched, he only knew that he did. The sky was still dark enough that the eternal flame nearby looked almost too bright, as if a small sun burned just beneath the horizon. Aaron kept his expression still, his posture immaculate. Tomb guards were not allowed to break composure, not even for a second, not even in the strangest of circumstances. But his eyes, trained to remain fixed forward, flicked for the tiniest moment toward a row of headstones to his left. Someone was there, a shape, a man. No one was supposed to be in the cemetery at this hour, yet Aaron saw him clearly, standing beside a tall headstone as if he had been waiting. The man wore what looked like an old uniform, olive drab with faded patches, the kind he had seen only in museums. His hands were clasped behind his back. His posture was rigid but natural, a posture that belonged to a soldier who had stood at attention many times before. Aaron's pulse raced, but his steps did not falter. 21 steps, pause, turn. When he turned, the figure was closer. He should have called it in, should have signaled, but something in the man's face, pale, calm, sorrowful, kept him silent. The man didn't move like someone sneaking or trespassing. He moved with the quiet certainty of someone who belonged. Aaron realized with a drop in his stomach that the man's boots made no sound on the gravel path. The next time Aaron paused and turned, the figure stood directly in front of him, just beyond the line he was sworn never to cross. Every instinct in him screamed to react, to defend the sacred ground. But the man simply raised a hand in greeting, a slow, almost hesitant gesture, as though he wasn't sure he still remembered how. Aaron's mouth went dry. His training said to remain silent. His mind said to run. His gut said to listen. The man spoke. "You're doing good work, son." The voice was distant, as if carried from another time. Aaron felt the hairs on his neck lift. He tried to form a response, but nothing came out. "You walk for them," he continued, glancing toward the sarcophagus, "for the ones who never made it home, for the ones who couldn't tell their stories." Aaron's throat constricted. The man looked at the tomb with a tenderness that made his chest ache. "Sir," Aaron finally managed, quietly, though he shouldn't have spoken at all, You're not supposed to be here." A faint smile touched the man's lips, something half sad, half grateful. I know." He stepped closer, and for the first time, Aaron saw him clearly enough to feel his breath stop. The man's face was pale but unlined, his eyes unusually bright, but his uniform, now visible in detail, was torn in places, stained with something darker than mud, and riddled with small burns. He recognized it from history books. It was a uniform from World War II, the type worn on D-Day. The man noticed Aaron staring. He said softly, "We were just boys, most of us." A weight settled in Aaron's chest. The air around them seemed to shift, charged with a heavy, aching memory. "What do you want?" Aaron asked, the words trembling despite his discipline. The man lifted his eyes to the horizon, where the first faint slice of dawn touched the sky. "I want to finish my walk." Aaron's breath hitched. Finish his walk? A soldier's final duty? He felt suddenly as though he were standing at the edge of two worlds, one living, one long faded. The man stepped backward, placing himself beside the path Aaron guarded, and then he nodded. as though giving a silent command. Without fully understanding why, Aaron broke formation. He stepped out of the rigid path, joining the man on the silent walkway that seemed to stretch farther than the eye could see. The air grew still, heavy with reverence. The cemetery seemed to hold its breath. The man began to walk. Not 21 steps, not a measured count, just a slow, steady pace, heading between rows of white stones that glowed faintly in the lightening sky. Aaron followed, his heart pounding. He knew he could be disciplined for leaving his post, but something in the man's face, pale, calm, sorrowful, kept him silent. The man didn't move like someone sneaking or trespassing. He moved with the quiet certainty of someone who belonged. Aaron realized, with a drop in his stomach, that the man's boots made no sound on the gravel path. The next time Aaron paused and turned, the figure stood directly in front of him, just beyond the line he was sworn never to cross. Every instinct in him screamed to react, to defend the sacred ground. But the man simply raised a hand in greeting, a slow, almost hesitant gesture, as though he wasn't sure he still remembered how. Aaron's mouth went dry. His training said to remain silent. His mind said to run. His gut said to listen. The man spoke. "I had a brother. You remind me of him. He used to say he joined the guards here one day, always talked about honor, about service." He listened, each word soaking into him like cold rain. "Did he serve?" he asked quietly. "He didn't make it past his training. Illness took him." He smiled faintly. "He used to say he'd watch over me anyway." The cemetery around them seemed to shimmer. Aaron realized they had walked much farther than should have been possible in such a short time. The rows of stones seemed endless, stretching out like a vast white sea. The man stopped beside a headstone, not a famous one, not one people often visited, just a simple marker, the engraving worn slightly from decades of weather. Aaron read the name and felt a jolt. Same last name as the man beside him. His brother. "You visited him," Aaron whispered, "when I could, before my own time came." They stood together, the early morning light washing over the stones, illuminating them like silent witnesses. "Why me?" Aaron asked finally. "Why show yourself to me?" The man looked at him with eyes that carried a weight of years he could never count. "Because you walk for the ones no one remembers, and because you listen." Aaron swallowed hard. The man's form flickered, the first sign he was not entirely of this world. "I should go," he said softly. "They're waiting." "Who?" he asked, though he somehow already knew. "All of them," he replied, glancing toward the countless headstones. "But I needed to finish my walk, one last time. Thank you for walking with me." Aaron felt a sting in his eyes, surprising and unbidden. "What should I tell people?" he asked, voice trembling. "About this, about you." The man smiled, a warm, grateful smile that made the morning seem brighter. "Tell them to remember. That's all any of us ever wanted." The wind rose gently, stirring the trees, and in that breath of movement, the man's form began to dissolve, fading like mist under the morning sun. The last thing to disappear was his smile. Aaron stood alone. The cemetery was still again, but no longer cold. The sky brightened, streaked with gold, and somewhere deep inside him, something had shifted, something he couldn't quite name, something made of honor and memory and the weight of all who came before. He turned and walked back toward the tomb, retracing steps that suddenly felt heavier, more meaningful. When he resumed his post, no one noticed the change in his eyes. No one saw the tremor in his breath. But every step he took that day, and every day after, held a new depth, a new reverence. He no longer walked alone. Word spread a week later after another guard found Aaron standing at the tomb long after his shift had ended, motionless, staring at something no one else could see. When asked what happened, he hesitated, then spoke only 6 quiet words. "I saw someone finish their walk." Most dismissed it. A trick of light, a tired mind, a soldier overwhelmed by duty. But a few older veterans who heard the story nodded knowingly, as if the world still held mysteries the young had forgotten to believe in. And though Aaron never spoke of the man again, not fully, not in detail, he carried the memory like a stone in his pocket, worn smooth with time. Some nights, when the cemetery was still and the stars shone faintly above the white rose, he felt the presence again, the sense of unseen footsteps beside his own, a calm that wrapped around him like a hand on his shoulder. He didn't fear it. He honored it. Years later, when Aaron became one of the senior tomb guards, he often found new trainees glancing nervously at